Hello and welcome to Game Jam Game Review, where we are looking at small Game Jam games that are looking for an audience to play them. Today we're looking at A City from Smoke from the Narrowscope 2024 Game Jam made by, what's it? Caramel Syrup. Dr. Caramel Syrup. I really liked this artwork, and an aspiring adventurer gets a tea reading. I wonder how it will play like. It's good to see that you have edited the landing page instead of going for the default. This short description might be enough, but I would suggest always choosing something a bit longer, a bit more expressive, and also have your credits in this description part, because that's where people expect to find them. That's where I get the theme. Okay, I'm no experience in what did it say? Link Inky. But choosing the colors is important, especially if you have a dark theme and a light theme. I thought I have seen once, I don't know where, resources about pairings of dark and light, such that those colors you can choose, such that it's both easily readable in light mode and in dark mode. As for me, this contrast between the light gray text and the black is way too low for me to comfortably be able to read it. While I usually like to go with dark themes, now I have to go with light theme. A City from Smoke. It's really noticeable that there's no capitalization in this title, so I wonder what that will imply, if this is more formal or something like that. So that's what I'm expecting at this moment. As with any other day, the day begins for you with a whisker grooming and a cup of murkwort tea while receiving yesterday's lectures. The room is sparse. The small desks where you sit now, the bed in the corner, and a few tink, tinctures. And a few tinctures help you sleep. That's a word I do not recognize. When you blow out your candle, morning blue haze is already filtering through the crevices of the hedge door. You push open the hedge to the ground floor shop and begin your preparations for the day. It's not another hour until the store opens. You've time to tidy the shelves, rearrange the colored potions, replace the tweezers by the jar of Eyes of Newt, dust the crystal foci. Your humble shop is a trusted apothecary, trader, and general goods store. Travelers, mercenaries, soldiers, and yes, adventurers have it on good authority that in the town of Lisette, the Redskins' abode, yes, the low house behind the woodsman's, is the place to find what you need. Generally, I would not suggest using parentheses, but em dashes for this interjecting sentence in a sentence that is itself running, where the middle sentence is like completely separate. It is not like something that you would separate with a comma, like say from like the woman, comma, who lived in the house, comma, walked toward me. Then the lived in the house can be removed, but it will still fit in the sentence. But now, if you remove the parentheses, it would be in the town of Lisette, the Redskins about, yes, the low house behind the woman's. That does not parse. So in that case, I would not use parentheses. I would use em dashes to separate these sentence structures, because with parentheses, I expect removing the parentheses to still have the sentence be readable, especially if it's in the middle of a sentence. Maybe at the end of a sentence you can have a side sentence that can be out of place, but especially in this case I would use em dashes. You naturally have what everyone needs because you've wanted everything for yourself at some point in your life. That's an interesting thought. Interesting. But those are the dreams of a young rat, and your nose is beginning to dry and crust up each morning. Instead, you did something with what you've accumulated by the barrow mounts, discarded or abandoned weapons. Poltai's books, rescued from a rude itinerant cleric searching for his deity in the bottom of a tavern glass. The tinkle of door chimes and the legato rhythm of heavy boots on wood alert you to the next customer. You cannot see their face as they approach. I would like a tea reading. Your whiskers bristle. It is without question that they are referring to the tea reading, though you discontinued that service more than a year ago. Please, they say, as their hands move to pull back the hood of their wool cloak. You smell oak, leather, but also smoke and clay, bringing you back to that same smell 1 year ago, on the day of the last tea reading you did. Smoke and ash in June. It is morning, but already sweltering, and a slow day ahead. Your one customer this morning is a young man in studded leathers and a mace clipped to his side. He has only said that he is the brickmaker's son from another town. He has just gotten started on his journey. He is in search of a few bounties, and he needs to be properly outfitted. His complexion reminds you of fresh skimmed cream. The young man's eyes dart round your shop, and you watch him carefully to see that he doesn't fumble with alchemical displays. Another fresh face in search of glory, hopefully one with coin in hand. Once he had rifled through the barrel of leather bracers long enough to seem like an informed customer, he approaches and taps your shop counter. I would also like a special reading, he says, gesturing towards the scrawled sign fixed to the counter. You offer a special tea reading, right? I had heard about it from the catfolk mercenaries last night. They claimed that the portent visions were what kept them safe these last few journeys. He grins. The smell of brick clay, smoke, and ash emanating from his hair and cloths is pungent when he is this close. How about it? Sounds useful. The catfolk, of course, know as much that the effects were not so predictable, and one left hairball vomit all over the shop floor. The catfolk, of course, knew as much that the effects were not so predictable, and one left hairball vomit all over the shop floor. These two sentence parts do not seem to follow one another. The first one is talking about like the catfolk as a people, a knowledge, a culture. These catfolk, like this, presumably human, like human boy. Was it a human boy? This young man's man, probably a human boy. Is more allured to the idea of potency than what is really happening in this tea readings ritual. That's like this culture clash aspect. That's what I read on the first sentence. But the second sentence, they read it more as, oh, like, so the catfolk were annoyed at the red person, but why? Because, like, so they are not fan of predicting the future. Like, I like this sentence really makes me struggle to understand like what is happening. But let's continue. The recent shipment seemed especially volatile after the caravan had to take a detour through the fate-touched wilds, but you are not one to deny the clink of silver coins he produces. The recent shipment. Where were those cats people? Like the cat. Like, I'm a bit lost on what the recent shipment means. Like, is it like okay, the recent shipment of what? Presumably like tea reading tea leaves. But like but it's difficult to really like understand and follow the connection between those two. I think that's what is being said, but was that implying that that's the reason why the catfolk were upset? I find it a bit confusing. Reluctantly, You lift the hatch and motion for him to enter the basement. He hovers over you as you grind the herbs, clearly uncomfortable at having to hunch to avoid the low ceiling. Okay, like this sentence again. For me, I parsed it incorrectly. Generally, like I'm not being a jerk saying this. Uh, Most of the time, like I read it and I stumble, and most of the time the best way is like it means that the writing could be rephrased to make it clearer. Because in this case, I read the sentence and was like, he offers over you as you grind the herbs. You are clearly uncomfortable of having to hunch. Oh, wait, what? Where does that come from? Oh, no, it is the man who is clearly uncomfortable. So he hovers over you as you grind the herbs. I would rephrase it like he's clearly uncomfortable at having to hurt. He hunches uncomfortably. I would rephrase it. Finally, once you've portioned the dried blossoms and leaves into his mug, he sits down. As you pour the boiling water from your kettle, the blossoms whirl in the teapot, and a pale violet stream trail curls lazily around the kettle spout. He drinks slowly as you instruct. He closes his eyes with each sip, the first clearly foul, but the rest easing his scowl into an expression that could pass for tranquility. Finally he passes the cup over, rubbing his temples. I'm done. You hear his breathing slow and turn ragged. You're not an expert in human physiology, but you hope he's not about to vomit. So is that I'm still coming back to why the cats, why did like this guy heard from the cats, but that tea reading was a good thing, but not from this store, the cats thought. But the cats did not tell this person to not go to this store. Still, I'm a bit hung on it. Peer into the cup. I played somebody else's game in Twine recently, and they also had that issue, the case that the option you select gets plopped into the text that is written above. And personally, I find it distracting. And it seemed possible to change it or like choose the wording such that it actually still makes grammatically sense. Like currently the sentence, you hope he's not about to vomit, peer into the cup as you tip the cup. That's like, that would not be a correct way to write. And that's like maybe a pet peeve of mine, but that might be something worth looking into. As you tip the cup, you see the leaf and blossom sludge crawling to the edge, a mass significantly larger than the meager teaspoon of crushed detritus you dropped in. It shimmers, undulates, turns inward, turns outward, and extends 7 long pestle-flicked arms, equidistant from the cup's center, thin slime trails that clasp a lip of the cup and then, all along their arm spans, branches over and again into fractal, shining carnations. Oh, branch as in a verb, not noun. That's always like with those words that can turn your sentences into a garden path sentence where you think you're reading it as I read it as a noun, but it was turned to be branch over, not a branch over and again. But okay, so all along their arm spans branch over and again into fractal shining carnations. In the cup you see the mass of sludge, the undulations becoming waves, and then valleys and hills, and then cold waves and slopes, baked under crowned suns, then motion, waves of swaying green stalks, folding over to blue-black waves again, extending outward. Okay, like as I was reading and I was thinking and I saw these 3 options at around this point, so I expected oh, like interesting, you're going to put the interactivity in the how to how to interpret what will happen to the how this reading should occur. But I'm thinking, like right now, from a reader's point of view, it makes sense that you would have some kind of a bit of a metaphorical kind of connection between the what the description is that you would choose and the actual prediction that the T reading will be made. But it can lead to a lot of frustration when, oh, I thought gold meant wealth instead of warmth and thus like burning. Like you you ask a reader to interpret these metaphors or portents in a way to make a decision, and then you show that their interpretation will be wrong. Like, I guarantee that I'm not going to interpret these three options the same way that you as the writer wrote them. So that's something I would be careful with, at least. But let's see how it will play out. Gold waves and slopes bake under crowned suns, waves of swaying green stalks, and blue-black waves extending outward. I'm going for the blue-black waves. Folding over to blue-black waves, again extending outward into the skyline like a massive rippling black tarp, barely concealing its many-teethed children. Under your paws you realize are slats of wood, and closer inland the markings of a city with I'm gonna go with hills and valleys dotted with hatches and doors into its underground passage. Raised earth and bricked leaves. Probably leaves, that's a typo. Raised earth and brick leaves stand. Raised earth and brick leaves stand guard in front of the burrowed city. Even without the typo, this is once again like a garden path sentence where you can really get hung up on. Okay, so raised earth and brick leaves stand, and then a guard in front of the burrowed city. Like guard not as a verb but as a noun. So that was made me struggle parsing the sentence. But for the occasional fishermen making their way back over the walled perimeter and waving back to the people within, you might hardly notice the windows the people within watch. You might not hardly notice the windows. The people within watch the waterline and what lies beyond. But for the occasional fishermen making their way. Under your paws you realize are slats of wood, and closer inland the markings of a city with hills and valleys, dotted with hatches and doors into its underground passages. Raised earth and brick leaves stand guard in front of the burrowed city, but for the occasional fishermen making their way back over the walled perimeter and waving back to the people within, you might hardly notice the windows the people within watch the water line and what lies beyond. That sentence is very long and mixes different things that you seem to want to describe about this setting you see within the teacup. So there's water, like a tarp, barely concealing its many teethed children. Under your paws you realize are slats of wood, and closer inland the making of a city with hills and valleys dotted with hatches and doors into its underground passages. I am completely lost in what I am expected to imagine at this point. But let's continue. Even among the people you notice him quickly. It is not that he is standing out, and in fact, like the other city folk, he is dressed in the same simple tunics, if a bit threadbare. Still, You notice the citizens give him a second glance as he passes them. He seems just as curious and perhaps lost as you might be. Okay, kind of ironic that being lost. On the contrary, no one seems to be aware of your presence. A stray ratkin in the open would surely have been accosted by now in this human community. They know him as a displaced traveler. They are not eager to receive him at first, and that first night he might have gone without food or water if the late-night fisherwoman hadn't offered him to partake of some of her catch. Then for it is barely perceivable, let alone nameable to you at this point, feels at first like a tug at the edge of your vision, and then running your hands through the loose threads of a loom. The cycles of the sun lengthen and shorten rapidly. The skies darken and lighten again, sometimes fast and sometimes slow, and the traveler and the citizens go about their day again and again, and he begins learning the ways of the people here. That's one sentence. I suggest breaking the sentence up, especially since there are... Okay, maybe there are not that many different points. You saw me run out of breath because there was also not really a nice stopping point. A nice, like, oh, now I can... I read the sentence and it feels like I know there's a comma and I know the sentence continues, but at this point I can stop in my mind to try to visualize the words I just read. But now I'm forced to continue the sentence because at no point the sentence gave me a thing to understand in between. Really over that way. I also, like, I am really confused on what I thought the Redskin being you, the Redkin being you, looking into this cup, into this vision. But now you, like, then there were the words. And so this person that you noticed, who's the him? I thought the him was the person who drank the tea. Is this a bit of world building that you've put into, like saying, oh, there is tension between Redkin and humans? Bit of a wrong place to place it. Like the him is like the him that is a displaced traveler is the boy who stood out. And then what is the it? Like you say, oh, then it feels at first like a tug at the edge of your vision, and then running your hands through the loose threads of a loom. The cycles of the sun lengthen. That's not it. That's like how I would, like, I did not expect the cycles of the sun lengthen and shorten rapidly being the it. That is also still describing the it. That's one of the reasons why the sentence felt a lot like a run-on sentence without a place to stop, is because we're still describing this it, this unknowing it that I cannot visualize in my head because it has not been described at this point. It is referred to but not visualizable. But so what happened is the cycles of the sun lengthen and shorten rapidly, the sky darken and lighten again, sometimes fast and sometimes slow, and the traveler and the citizens go about their days again and again, and he begins learning the ways of the people here. I also find it a bit confusing what you mean with lengthen and with lengthen. Is this the idea that, oh, the years pass because across a year the day becomes longer and shorter, and so you're trying to describe that I think you're trying to describe that, like the motion of moving through time, how that would be experienced, but you first described the long-term effect, the changing of the durations of the day, and then describe a shorter-term effect, mainly the changing of a single day, like the sky darkens and lightens again is a single day that moves quick, and then you notice that the cycles of the sun lengthen and shorten. Oh, I notice a year quite rapidly. But then there's sometimes fast and sometimes slow. What's like it feels. Why does it sometimes be slow? That part I find really difficult to actually visualize, actually understand what you're trying to make me, what you're trying to describe, what the Redkin in the present thinking, the Redkin in the present thinking back of the memory from a year ago, looking into this vision. But seemingly, the boy has begun to learn the ways of the people here. Over the weeks, see, like that's my issue. The description of the cycles of the sun lengthening and shortening did not seem even weeks. That is years. So, okay. Over the weeks, you see patterns of the city unfold. The citizens and elders alike spend most of their leisure time flirting and stealing away for a tryst, praying and studying religious texts, having lively discussions. I wonder what they're talking about. In view of the stocks, like the livestock, presumably not the paper stocks for in like trading in Facebook and such. But okay, in view of the monument in the city. It is probably the reason for choosing for how the engine works, but like in view of the monument in the Stygian Pavilion, a huge slab of rough stone, a reminder of ever-present danger. Okay, yeah, it is probably fine, but I find it a bit clunky. You both see this. You both see this is a city of knowledge, science and arts, of course, but especially the wisdom of folklore and legend shared by the community storytellers, wise and elders who understand the importance of remembering old dangers. You both is not you both see X and Y. It is you and you, the Redkin, and this human boy who sought a tea reading sees this as a city of knowledge. So far it was you recognize, oh, we both suddenly recognize. I thought that the Redkin was having a vision, and I did not expect the boy to be able to have access to that vision, to also see in this tea. I would expect this magic to be more solitary, that it is you seeing the things transform before your eye because you have access to an arcane knowledge that allows you to do tea reading. And this sentence was again like really long and really cumbersome to understand, hold in your head. But okay, you both see this is a city of knowledge, science and arts, of course, but especially the wisdom of folklore and legends, shared by the community storytellers. Wizened elders who understand the importance of remembering old dangers. Books and the knowledge within is one of the few escapes of this for this community. It is ironic that for these people who likely will never leave their underground refuge, they know as much about seasons and birds and movements of moons and tides as they do, more so than most learned people on the surface. Only his host tells him. Only his host. Who is his? I do not, like looking back, I do not find out who's this his. Only his host tells him, in private, of the strange beast that lies beyond the fog and the black tides, of whom these people hardly speak. This is the one, the remarkable, the outsider who has a host. Oh, so the you both is you, the tea reader, and you and the boy. We were not like we were only a set like consider two people here, and then they were not considered the same. Okay. I would not like expect someone to live like somebody living in their stead in a city, almost like thinking to themselves, "Oh, this is a city of knowledge." That's like feels really uh, ex- expositionary. Like, oh hey, I need to tell to the audience that this is a city. But of course, that's not happening because it is neither. It is you and this other person. Like, I expect the uh, tea reader, the Redkin, to look at the city from a more global view, but the person living inside it does not really have such global memories of the thing. Like the city where I live is like you can maybe describe it as a green city, but it's not how I would think of my city. So I find it that a bit confusing. But they discussed theories on how the clouds above form in the sky and to where the squirrels migrate in winter. When the traveler asks his host why, she is confused. You act as if we aren't worried about the beast every other moment of her life, she says. When the traveler asks his host why, she is confused. You act as if we aren't worried about the beast every other moment of our life, she says. Well, okay, for clarity, I'm missing the quotation to say this is dialogue. Um, I find this a non sequitur. Like, why do you discuss clouds? Like, how the clouds form? And the answer is you act as if we aren't worried about the beast. Okay, no, like, I was a bit confused. Probably because the sentences are so long. Only his host tells him in private of the strange beast that lies beyond the fog and the black tides, of whom these people hardly speak, but they discuss theories on of how the clouds above form in the sky and to where the squirrels migrate in winter. Like this is a long sentence, and so in my mind my first interpretation was the traveler asks why do they discuss theories on how clouds move? Like because the previous sentence does not like the previous sentence is not they hardly speak or and the previous sentence is just a standalone they discuss theories, not instead they discuss. And like if you use the word instead, and if I look back at the sentence, I'm thinking, okay, so this why is why do you do this instead? But now the question is why do you discuss theories? And then it is a non sequitur answer to say you act as if we aren't worried. Okay. Over the years, grows close to a gruff recluse known for keeping to themselves, a swarthy, rambunctious woman with a hearty laugh, a timid man with starry-eyed aspirations of his own. One of the elders would take a shining to him, and his outlandish stories of a land with cats and mice folk who might whisk you away to dreamlike seas. He grew close to one of the elders. Okay, like elders are old. Your description of a timid man with starry eyed aspirations of his own. I did not foresee an elder for me. This is not. Well, okay, okay, he grows close. Let's see if something romantic happens in this, because that's a bit weird. Okay, yeah, consuming love. Okay. I would not use the word elder. Like this, I'm currently understanding this as the past of the person in front of me. So I'm imagining a younger than this young boy. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe this is the future. Like the years pass by, but he was still young. I find this a bit uncomfortable. Like the idea of big age gaps, because that was not what I was expecting. But yeah, maybe that's me. Under his sponsor's wing, the traveler himself becomes a respected elder. Months pass. Okay, so is elder in this term not a term of age, but only a term of being an elder, uh, a town leader, like such. Months pass, months pass, and it is as if he had never lived anywhere else. Things, the time scope seems really weird, really off. Like things are happening way too fast. Months pass, and it is as if he had never lived anywhere else. Years pass, and they establish a comfortable existence with homes and hearth. With home and hearth. Some days the brickmaker's son would recall the youthful spirit that led him on his current path, though he was not a youth any longer, and would harbor dreams of leading an expedition into the ink-black sea in search of the creature that lay beyond the fog. But those dreams never came to pass, and as they festered in his mind, the man became more quiet, then more angry with his lot in life, and once even the act of breaking bread risked his temper. And once even the act of breaking bread risked his temper. Eventually that timid man would recall his stories of running away from a tranquil life his town has built for itself, and wondered what would happen if those dreams of flight were his dreams instead. Okay, to me, breaking bread means is a word for eating together. Like very famously coming to mind that um, Mark Antony had broken bread with Julius Caesar the night before he murdered Caesar, and so that was a big scandal in the time. That's like the most recent time somebody has used breaking bread, especially since in that time dinner was a lot more bread than in our current day and age. So just like what I read was going out with dinner with this guy made him angry. Probably not intended, because that's like really weird. Okay. Eventually, that timid man, so the partner, would recall his stories of running away. Okay, so like I had never heard of the stories of running away. Like this is written as though this is a repetition of information, like not in a bad way, but the man recalled something. To me, this I read this for the first, because his first stories were, oh, there are lands with cats and mice folk, but now there's not. But that's not true. That's far away. These kinds of stories. Okay. As the threads of time continue to flow through your pulse, you see seasons pass. The lovers grow distant, and one day you and the traveler wake up and find that he is alone. I still find it confusing. Like, why do you wake up? You are omniscient observer to this life, and not like, why do you wake up? You saw the sun setting and rising while it was happening under your paws. I find it confusing. Outside, a storm picks up, but a mile from the shore, the winds around his beloved craft remain calm, and the Black Sea laps contentedly at its prow. When you come to, your room is empty. The young man is gone, and whatever city they have gone to whisked away as well. The tea sludge in front of you sits dormant, brown and opaque. Only the lingering sense of smoke and clay is any indication that the man was here at all, and the same scent you smell now. Well, maybe like a small thing, but there was this um, break, this effect. There was a name for it, but I forgot, and I expected it to reappear here to indicate that we're moving, returning to a new section. As the customer removes the hood of his cloak, you see his hands, calloused, middle fingers capped with leather archery guards, then his face, and you recognize it, that of a timid man from the far-off city. But how different he has become. Through the travel, perhaps did not find the adventure he was originally envisioning. You see that this traveler must have had many such journeys in the past. Aside from his parents, you were the only one he really spoke of when he talked of his homeland. A land with mice folk and cat folk. The man shrugs his shoulder and leans against your counter. I suppose I had to see it for myself. A moment passes. You are not sure where to place your paws. Could you spare me a moment over a cup of tea? I'll make it worth your time. The man produces a coin purse from his belt and looks up again. I know you are a fine storyteller. The tea mugs are stashed in your room below. Your new customer follows your eyes to the hedge door, mouth curled in a plaintive smile. Far away from the static of laughter and weighty discourse, a man looks out into the fog as he casts its line into the sea, waiting. The shop won't open for another hour. Outside, the morning light is bluer than what you remember from the world you had dreamed of long ago. It is late spring, and the carnations are coming into bloom again. Okay. Well, first things first, I do not feel really moved to play again to see other options, and that's mostly because it is quite a confusing read, especially because it's often not clear about which character things are happening. Because all I got from the character who is now at the end was like, it was not the boy expected. Like the boy at the beginning, I would like a tea reading. You recognize the smell. Okay, but why would a person's husband smell like them? Would this entire place smell like them? One issue with the entire world that was being described during the section of during the first time, you have like options about, hey, what do you see, and how does the city look like? Those are very complicated and abstract terms to describe the city. And in the end, there still isn't that much to go into. Like the contents were not that interesting to me. In the end, there was like, why was the motivation to go? Like, there were two motivations. Like, his partner grew bitter and he had memories of wanting to go, so he went. Like, there were only a few sentences spent on the partner in that way. It's not like, it's like, so that's where I've been left with after reading this. Coming back, like in general, this is like quite well written still. Like, especially none of the amateur issues with repetition of word use. repetition of sentence structure. Like it is definitely very varied sentences. The issue with way too long sentences, which make it difficulty to actually parse. Oh, hey, this is where I am now. This is what I'm reading. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I quite liked it. I definitely enjoyed my time here, and I hope I'll see you another time. Goodbye.